carrying forward from last week some ideas of how to catch this pigment, how to catch it on some texture. What I did first was I set up some kind of ridges, and then I passed across it, and you see how it catches the paint in these ridges. This kind of interference I think is quite interesting, it's quite nice. Just creating another texture on a flat surface that I will then try and pass across. And I think it should be able to emphasize this movement, this human movement. It's the ridges now that I'm kind of interested in, these sharper details. The way this folds around and kind of, yeah, folds across itself, I think is quite interesting. You can see this one here too. It's like rounded pebbles at the bottom here. Temperature is just right. Harry? Abby? You get that sort of raw summer energy. Unfiltered sort of pureness. Boy, Harry, something I've been working on in the background. Basically, I'd like to start to show some of the people and some of the work that has an influence on me, just to bring a little bit more variety into what I'm doing here, into the ideas and the influences that definitely come into my work, and the majority of which come through, you know, contacts or connections on Instagram whose work I've started to discover. But yeah, I've got some pieces actually from different artists. I'm going to show a few of them today or this week. You come on, Harry. Past the afternoon mixing paint here, you can see this storm head moving in down here, and you can feel the wind picking up. That's going to bring the temperature right down. It's impossible to work in this glass house at the moment, so but yeah, I got everything prepped, got everything ready for tomorrow. So all right, so I think it could be a warm day today if the fog lifts. I like this mark, I have to say. I really like this paint kind of mixes in here, and the movement, the energy of this. To me, this is the enemy, essentially, this sort of brown, muddy pigment. When the pigments get like this, I just throw them away, and that's basically what I've done here. So that's quite nice. See these two horses having a moment. Made this beautiful discovery here. You can see these pigments, these colors here. When I scraped it off, I'm pulling off the back, which is all of the brown, the muddiness. So I played around with that, and I had a bit of fun here. Yeah, I really did. I love the way it sort of mixes as we go down through, and deposits these different textures. Like here, this interference here is quite nice. So you've got clarity in the start, and then it begins to kind of mix together and become a little bit obscure towards the end. Maybe that's like life. So I'm sort of feeling it out and how this stuff is behaving, and we get this deposit and then it slides down. They're very wily. I mean, it's quite difficult to control it, and I like that. I mean, it's like the dog, it's like Harry, and does what he wants. But texture, I love these pieces. I love this sort of depositing of these sort of chunks. Some beautiful marks. Yeah, beautiful marks here. So sometimes, you know, you hit into something like the brown pigment, and it makes you kind of uncomfortable because you don't like it. But it's important to also sit with that and to be able to observe it and see what's happening there. I mean, on the whole, that seems to be a far healthier way to connect with this practice, and I definitely feel the benefits from it. Now, whether or not that's reflected in my work, to be honest, I don't really care. You know, I can see it in the work, and I'm the final arbiter of my work. It's not really about galleries or, you know, features or anything like that. It's, if you sit with the work and you stay with it, is that your work? Is that what you wanted to say? Is that how you wanted to say it? Look at this guy. How am I going to get in there without scaring him? Wow. Beautiful. Straight into it this morning. There's something about this pigment and the way it's, Yeah, it's almost like a two-layer thing. So I left off here and then I just started to explore. Very intuitive mark making, and this one I think came up quite well. This one, you see the story in this one, as I talked about, how you can, you know, the origin of these things. It tells a story, you know, how it sits, how it lies, how it was created. So, I mean, these just really pop because of this sort of blue background. I mean, compositionally, this, to me, it reads quite well. There's a nice balance in this. Although I was just making marks subconsciously, and then I stepped back and I was like, okay, you know, this is how it is. That's how it reads. It's like alchemy. It's just a particular arrangement is going to unlock something. Story time. That's what I was thinking of. There's quite a lot of studies on wood of like the eyes or the hands. And I remember the first time I saw that kind of work was in Paris. I think it was Musée d'Orsay. It's the life of the human body combined with the warmth of the wood is quite something. So, flash forward, an artist who followed me, her first 2 paintings on Instagram are these studies on wood. They are incredible. The brushwork is really loose. You get the natural tones of the wood here. You build up the human skin from these tones, like this one. So, 2 very, very distinct things, a closer crop here. But I just think like they're so full of life. Very charming, you know. Charming little studies of the eye. I was waiting to find a nice wall to display the artworks that I collect, but I don't know when that's going to be. So, and I've accumulated quite a backlog of different artworks that I've bought or traded for. I think I'm going to let this one dry. I'm going to come back at it maybe this evening or possibly tomorrow morning, but I've been building up layers here all morning, and yeah. I don't know yet. This last layer is quite thick, so I'm gonna wait for this to dry and see where I can go. But often when you get to this point of uncertainty, and there's a temptation to sort of scrap it, and I've also found that when you persevere and, you know, it's on the edge now, it's on the edge of like obliteration. I've got to kind of step away and just let it cure. But I'm trying to listen to what's happening, and I don't want to force it in a direction that's familiar. So the electricity in the air is unbelievable, like the humidity, the pressure. I came to a place I wanted to show you, which one aspect is incredible views, panoramic views, which you're not going to see anything today. Like up ahead is what's known as it's a passage tomb, at least 5,000 years old. Significance of the actual tomb is debated. I mean, as is the society who created it and why they created it. One of the things most interesting for me are these petroglyphs. It has these different kinds of designs carved in many different stones. It's good to sort of let yourself reflect on these things, on the unknown. Just past these trees, there's a clearing. It sort of reveals this mysterious place. There it is, yeah. So the mystery remains. Today is not today to visit, but came close. Beautiful place all the same, like. Yeah, so continuing to work on this piece, and it's starting to feel overworked, and that's something that's very difficult to recover from. The longer you work with it, the more energy it takes. So it builds up more of a charge, and this energy seeks release or resolve. So I stayed with it. I took a couple of smaller canvases, and I sort of took this energy and channeled it in that direction. And yeah, I think I found an edge, and I found a point of rest, of balance. Like, look how loose this thing is. You know, there's just so much. Yeah, it feels like you can breathe. It feels like there's something emerging here. I'm working out painting by painting, like step by step, rather than, you know, trying to do everything at once. It's sort of like, yeah, so each piece, each painting brings me forward to the next one. I mean, that sounds obvious, but this process is really pulling me in here. So look at this, you can see that the rain has flattened the grass here. It's just all collapsed. Still quite a lot of humidity. We didn't really get that storm yet, so kind of a pressure headache here, but I'd like to start to have dialogues with other artists about their practice and their processes and the human side of things, like how do people kind of maintain their ideas and refine their workflow, and I mean, how do you deal with all of the day-to-day stuff, take that and sort of weave it into your practice as well somehow. So coincidentally, an artist reached out to me just today, so maybe that's a good place to begin. And it was one of the reasons why I started these videos, was to try to find other artists again and to have these dialogues. Take care of yourself, look after your mind, and I'll talk to you probably next week.